A very large part of the recent thrust of the Order of St. Lazarus in Canada has had to do with a Caregiver's Guide, a handbook about end-of-life care.
Now, statistics show that almost 80% of terminally ill patients would prefer to die at home. Realizing this, the purpose of a Caregiver's Guide is to provide credible and relevant information for primary caregivers in the home. These caregivers are usually the immediate family or relatives of the person at the end of life.
This book helps prepare them for what they can expect as they provide care and support in their homes. Most of the content of a Caregiver's Guide was written by nurses with extensive experience in end-of-life care. Chevalier Robert Clark spearheaded the publication of a Caregiver's Guide. We talked to him about the goals of the project.
The aim of a Caregiver's Guide is to complement the advice and information family caregivers receive from the end-of-life care team of doctors, nurses, and other support workers.
How is the book distributed in Canada?
Funded by the Order of St. Lazarus, copies are given to family caregivers at no cost by hospice and palliative care workers in more than 500 programs associated with the Canadian Hospice Palliative Care Association.
What response have you received from the recipients?
Overwhelmingly positive. Both family caregivers and the professionals supporting them have come to rely on a Caregiver's Guide. Well over 250,000 copies have been distributed in Canada.
Where does the project go from here?
Our next step is to investigate web-based publishing opportunities, although I do think the print model is still better for bedside use. We may soon have to look to revisions in the content, but as far as the Order is concerned, we hope to keep it as a national project for some time to come.
Maryse Bouvette is a palliative care consultant with Bruyère Continuing Care in Ottawa. She relates how a Caregiver's Guide has helped her in her work.
This book is certainly a support for me, as it's left to the family to refer to after I've left. This is a book that describes the journey that you're in, describe different needs that you may be exposed to, different changes that your loved one will experience. So sometimes I just leave the book, I say it's out there for you, refer to it as you wish, but it's there for you. When I give the book to family caregivers, their impression is often, my God, this is free. And I say, yes, this is for you. This is for you so you can refer to it. Families often receive a lot of information and it's hard for them to remember. So when they see the book, they know they can refer to it and refer back to what I may have said to them. And it's on black and white.
Alice Holtz was a recipient of a Caregiver's Guide. She relates how much it helped her care for her terminally ill sister.
I first received a copy of the Caregiver's Guide from a dear friend of mine who knew my situation when my late sister Carol was very ill with cancer. She knew I was time-starved and looking for any information I could get on palliative care because I wanted to be conscientious and do a good job with looking after my sister. I couldn't wait and just read it in segments. I tore through the whole thing immediately. And then, of course, as time permitted, I went back and used it time and time again as my sister's condition changed and her illness took her away from us. But that initial read was wonderful for me. It helped me so much to understand what was happening with her, what was going on, what the different phases of her illness meant. And it gave me language to talk about it. It was so valuable to me. I can't say enough good about how well written it is, how succinct it is. It's comprehensive. It tells you everything you need to know. It touches on everything key that you're going to possibly experience.
The Order continues to fund publication, including translation. The Canadian Hospice Palliative Care Association carries out the distribution through their network. Since the inception of the national project, more than 250,000 copies in both official languages have been distributed free of charge and have been warmly received across Canada by caregivers.
In addition to French and English, the Order has published other editions for use in Canada, including Chinese and 2 native Canadian languages, Inuit and Inuinnetun.
It's left in a home. They know they can go back to it anytime. So the family are often very, very pleased, as and they tell me after the fact, actually, how that book guided them. But when I look at my clientele, I would like to say it's not only the patient and the family. My clientele is also the nurse, the nurses, the doctors, the personal support workers, the volunteers. I am often asked to teach these people and to guide them or to mentor them. And I use this book, and it's very important that we have a common language.
The book helped me care for my father in a very special way. His wish was to pass away at his cottage, and it was the Christmas time, and so we took the book and my father and brought him to the cottage where there was a lot of snow, and where it hit me is when he fell. And then I realized I'd read that in the book, that at a certain phase, that if they fell, that could be a sign that things are starting to move along. And so we brought him back to bed, and my sister and my mom and I hovered together and looked at the book and looked at the different phases that someone who was dying could go through. And it was amazing for us because the next day, when things starting to progress, we were relating to the book and feeling a certain amount of relief, because we knew we couldn't take him home, it was too late. So we needed to be more reassured of how things were going to go and what was the next steps. And the most important of all, it was written that we did not have to rush, that we could stay with him, and this was Christmas Eve, we could stay with him, and each one of us, each our turn, we went and sat with him and talked to him, and the others went back with the family. So it was a very important guide to allow us to live this in a very special way, while feeling reassured that we were doing the right thing.
The success of a caregiver's guide in Canada has led to publishing agreements in several other countries. With publishing support provided by the Canadian Grand Prairie, palliative care organizations in Portugal, Australia, China, and Japan have translated and printed a caregiver's guide. It continues to support family caregivers and, in some cases, to train healthcare workers. Negotiations are ongoing with other countries.
Remember, the purpose of a caregiver's guide is to support people at their greatest time of need, to help them to die at home with dignity, surrounded by the love and care of their families. This is consistent with the Order's mission of service to mankind. The Order of St. Lazarus continues to strive for new and innovative ways to fulfill this mission, both here at home in Canada and overseas.
But I will always identify the Order of St. Lazarus with this caregiver guide that has become my friend, and I'll never be parted from it.
My dad was a very, very proud man, and he wanted to die at home. And I think that this book allowed us to support him in this journey that he wanted to do, and especially at his cottage. And it allowed us to do it with reassurance, and it allowed him to die with dignity. And I think that was the most important lesson about this book. And I hope other families can take the opportunity to use it too.